Yeah, let me sip the Celsius.
So that's another drug. Celsius will fuck me up.
Now I do anything that anything that's not a drug, but that's addicting.
Yeah,
I do.
caffeine and nicotine.
Caffeine, nicotine.
Do you
porn.
find? Yeah, do you find that there's? All right, wait. Let's start it now.
Okay.
All right, so there's a. I guess the point of the pod. I don't know how many I'm going to do or how often I'm going to do it, but I guess I just want to give an outlet for people who have things that they don't normally talk about on a podcast to express or get into. I think I'm going to call it personal questions. It's going to be like dash personal questions. So, because you're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Or you used to be.
Every time you asked me to do the pod, you're like, yeah, I want you to come on and just talk about how big of a drug addict you are.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And you seem open enough to do that.
I do. I like talking about it.
You described yourself yesterday as an overshare, which I'm like, that's perfect.
I overshare.
If you sucked a crackhead's dick for drugs,
Yeah, I'll tell
point,
you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because to me it was wild when I met you, because you're such a sweet, lovable guy. That I knew you were the AA thing, but I'm like, how intense could it have been? And then you're like, oh no, I was a heroin addict, and I'm like, Jimmy?
Yeah, it was bad. Every day of my life was a living nightmare for a while.
It wasn't amazing?
But like, even if you saw me when I first got sober and clean, I would go into meetings and just shake.
Because
and
you didn't have alcohol and substances?
Yeah, I was kind of like mourning the loss of alcohol and drugs. So it was like I was saying goodbye to an old friend.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but also I'm sure the lifestyle. You had to change everything about how you...
Change everything.
Where you went and what you did.
Yep. And then I didn't have anything to replace it, so I was just like miserable, sitting in my house shaking.
And you're like, this sucks.
I want to
be an alcoholic
this
again.
Sucks. And I didn't get rid of I had like a bong and weed, and it took me it was just sitting in my room.
Yeah.
For
taunting you.
Yeah, because
saying,
I wasn't.
Jimmy, come here.
I wasn't ready to let it go, because I used to quit weed all the time, and I would put my bong in the trash and all my weed in a kitchen garbage thing.
Yeah.
Garbage bag.
Yeah.
Those kitchen garbage things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would put it out, and then the next day I'd be digging through the trash.
That reminds me with cigarettes.
Yeah.
I've thrown cigarettes in the trash and
Yep.
then being like, that's my last pack. It doesn't make me feel bad. And then I'd go the next morning and be like, where the fuck did I put it?
It's same thing with vapes. I've thrown vapes away and just dug through the trash to get it.
Or a vape has died on me, and then I'll be like, does it have any left? And I get a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that almost reminds me of a breakup. Is you break up with somebody and it's over, but then you still have the pictures, you haven't deleted those yet.
Do
so
you
go back to it?
Do you delete all the pictures?
Well, I've really only gone through one real relationship breakup. Everything else has been casual, sort of hey, let's stop doing this, and then you kind of slowly ghost them over a period of time after you've said your piece.
I cut off immediately.
Really?
I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't, because then I'll think I obsess about the girl, and then I want to text them, so I delete, I block, which is immature.
In a way. I mean, I think on the other hand, it's probably more mature than being hey, I've been thinking about you.
Yeah, and also I'm not a good person. Well, for me, it's I'm completely selfish. So when I break up, sometimes I'll say something really mean, because I'm I want to push this person away.
Yeah.
So I'll be I never had,
Oh, I would hate that if some girl did that to me. Oh, you have a tiny dick.
And so seriously, I've and then I think about it now. I have more empathy now. I'm what? How would I feel if someone was I never wanted to be serious with you?
Would you just do that just
for myself?
Just to kind of feel better about it, to kind of be in the position of power or something?
Yes, I wanted every relationship to end where I'm in power. I'm saying that the relationship wasn't right. I'm saying that I need to move on. I'm saying that I need space. Yeah, I'm blaming them, because it was too hard for me to go through a relationship, a breakup, thinking oh, I fucked up, or oh, this isn't what I want.
Do you only reach that clarity later, where you're you say all the mean stuff, and how long does it take before you're I was a dickhead?
Oh, yeah, it'll happen a couple hours later, where I feel bad,
say that?
And then where I regret it, and then where I want to take it back. I've had a lot of like situations where I'll end things and like a couple hours later I'm sending them like a fucking DBQ essay about how I fucked up and I was in a bad place, and then like
that's how many times is that a constant?
No, not anymore.
That's funny.
But it used to be. And then like I was bipolar, so I would have these manic. I mean, I'm still bipolar.
Yeah. Before I got over it.
Yeah, but I'd have these manic episodes where I'm like, "Fuck this bitch," she can kill herself. And then like 2 hours later, when I was less manic, I would. Like,
so it's almost not even your fault, because I like a good, clean, amicable. Yeah. It's my disease. It's my. Yeah. I'm actually the victim.
I'm not an asshole. I'm sick.
And the only way for me to help, for me to get help, is for you to be in my life.
Yeah. I need you. You complete me.
And
I'm nothing without you. And that's kind of how it was, because like codependency, it's like you feel incomplete.
So do you find similar patterns in relationships as you did with your relationship with substances?
Yeah, where I'm hurting if I don't have it. Mm-hmm. I'm not at ease. She's like a fix, so she's like, when she's there, I'm like, and when she's not there, I'm going crazy and thinking she's with someone else, or what's she doing? Am I going to lose her forever? Very unhealthy.
No, I mean, you seem better now. I don't know. I guess where I wanted to start was just at the very beginning of what was the first time you ever got drunk in your life. How old were you?
Okay, I was 14, and I was going to this like summer church camp where we fix up like a house that's dilapidated.
So you're doing something kind.
Yeah, but it was right before. So like we were, me and my two friends, my friend Steven was like, we're going to get you drunk before you go. Mm-hmm. So we went to his house, and his parents' liquor cabinet, they just had like 20 different bottles, and he put a little bit of each one in this flask. Literally like 20 different types of liquor mixed.
I guess that is something you would do if you were a child.
Yeah, we didn't know. We were just like, and I drank the whole thing, and then we just wandered around my neighborhood, and then I just projectile vomited.
Yeah. I threw up the first time I drank too.
Yeah. So that was bad. But then the second time I drank was a nightmare. So
I thought you were going to say awesome.
No, it was bad, and I never stopped. But so the second time we were at this party, and so we had, there was like vodka, like this sour apple vodka. Mm-hmm. It tasted like candy. Like
yeah,
it was like for
that's
children.
like a college thing. Yeah,
or
like
college, yeah.
Or you go like, we have green apple Smirnoff, and it tastes like
super
nothing.
Easy to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my friend Trenton, we just went back and forth, just taking shot after shot. And everyone else like took a shot and then they drank a beer, but we just sat at the table.
Yeah.
And drank.
Which isn't how typically it happens now. It's not like you're experimenting.
No.
Back then you're just like, let's see how many swigs of this I can take before I vomit.
Yeah, and also the first time I didn't know how drunk I could get.
Yeah.
I just was drunk, and I wanted to make sure I stayed drunk. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I better keep taking
That's
shots.
like weed, as you continue smoking for like, hours on end.
Well, yeah, you don't want to not be high.
Yeah.
So like almost immediately blackout, but like during the brownout, I remember like I wasn't a cool kid, but like I started hanging out with the popular
cool
kids. Yeah. And so like there's all these hot girls that I usually don't hang out with, and I remember like being super confident and like talking to all them and like feeling comfortable. Like literally the first time I had a conversation with these girls that I would hang out with all the time. Like I would just like hang out with them and be too afraid to talk to them.
But you were just faded.
So I remember, and I had like my arm around them, and I was like, and then looking back now, it's like I could have done that sober. I was just too big of a pussy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then I blacked out, and then the next day, so I wake up in my friend's house with different clothes, and my friend Trenton had a super hot mom. Like so hot. Yeah. And like 10th grade, I didn't hit puberty until like 11th. Like I started around 10th grade.
Yeah.
So like I had like 8 pubes at that time. So anyway, I wake up with completely different clothes on.
Mm-hmm.
just like new underwear.
And this was scary to you?
Well, I was like, what happened? And my friend's like, so what happened was I got so fucked up. I was vomiting, and they were in front of the ER debating whether or not to take me to the ER.
Because you were just like not stop. You were just like dry heaving and going crazy.
I was like vomiting all over myself and like going in and out of consciousness. But they didn't take me, but they took me home. And then so they were like, Trent's mom, she took all your clothes off and changed you.
And you were like, sick.
I'm like, yeah. But no, I was like, she saw my tiny little fucking dick.
My 0 pubes.
Yeah. So I remember just thinking like, the first time I wanted it to be special the
first time. Not like this.
Yeah.
And then, that was the nightmare.
That was the nightmare. And then, but still, it's like I didn't stop drinking. You would think like that would be like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't do this. But then it went into like, I didn't want to do anything if it didn't involve drinking.
In high school?
In high school, yeah.
Interesting.
Because me and my friends would drink a lot, but there'd be some times when we didn't drink.
Where you just hang out.
Yeah.
And you were like, why aren't we
drinking? Yeah. So
it's almost like me now a little bit, but I guess it's more appropriate.
Yeah. Well, it's like now you go out, you might as well have a beer.
Yeah.
And that's how it was.
Well, I remember for me, the high school was way less about drinking and more about smoking weed. Where the first time I smoked weed was when I was like 12, and I just did that all the time. But that isn't as dangerous, I guess, as blacking out in front of an ER.
No, I mean, weed is like, you can get high, but it's
no, but the only worst you can get is a panic attack.
Yeah.
You're fine.
And that's an internal thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about your friend's hot mom looking at your dick.
Yeah, or even the substance abuse aspect is you can get chemically addicted, or not even chemically, but just you can get addicted to weed and have it be so much part of your life it's ingrained. But again, the worst that could happen is you're smoking weed all day. There isn't as much of the downward spiral involved.
No, like you're disappointing your parents and all your friends.
Yeah.
But you're not hurting anyone.
No, I mean, I was experimenting a little bit in high school with alcohol, and I would get drunk. And then in college a little bit, but really when I turned 21 and could go to bars is when I started drinking. And I didn't have this early urge to like get fucked up all the time.
Right.
I think partly because I would throw up and it would be a bad experience, and I'd be like, I don't want to do this all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know what just being buzzed and fun was. I was just getting too fucked up and not understanding the limits.
But did you start drinking heavy when you were 21?
No, I was pretty healthy with it. I never got, I mean, that's, I guess so what transition, so you were just getting trashed like that in high school all the time?
Yeah.
And then in college it got worse?
In college, I drank and smoked until I basically failed out. And then that's when my mental health stuff started kicking in. Mm-hmm. I was like, it was before I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but I was having these insane manic episodes.
Yeah.
Because and then I got into weed super hard.
Yeah, and just like, being high 24/7.
All the time. Like I would smoke joints on my way to class, and just wake up high.
Yeah.
Like wake up in the middle of the night and then have to hit a bong. Like I had to be high.
Which is something that seemed so normal to me. I think when I started college and like I would know stoners. And then the older I get, if I see somebody do that, I'm like, bro, you got to put the bong down.
At some point it gets sad.
Well, that's like my alcoholic friends who are truly like, probably not anything you experience, but like I know people who, they go to therapy for substance abuse. But even it's wrapped around this thing of like, you're in college, so it's kind of normal. You know, it's he could convince himself for a while that what he was doing was normal. Yeah,
when you're in college, you don't have to question if you're an alcoholic or not, or you don't even really know. Well, I kind of knew, but like, you just say I'm in college, so of course I'm getting fucked up.
Yeah, everybody else is, you know.
But then it gets sad. That's when it gets sad. It's like if I see like a guy that's like 35, and his bong is like a centerpiece of his on his coffee table,
on next to like a Rick and Morty backwood. Like
that's when you have posters that aren't in frames. It's like
like blacklight posters of like a weed nugget riding a unicorn,
or a tapestry. And
but tapestries are cool when you're young, and then it gets to a point where you're like, dude, how much did you pay for this bong?
It gets depressing.
Yeah, but even the bipolar stuff, was it obvious to you before you got diagnosed that you were just like, were you having episodes really before you checked it out?
So like I didn't even think about what it was, but like even in high school I would get these like I would get all this just burst of energy where I would like just go crazy and like, or if I was whatever mood I was in, it would amplify it to like 11. So like if I was angry and I'd have these outbursts, I got in trouble in school a lot because I would scream at teachers.
That's wild. Well, you're so mellow now, it seems.
Yeah, like, but no, I was a spaz. Like I would scream at teachers.
Like cursing them out?
Yeah, and I really wanted to be a good student, so if I got like a bad grade,
you'd be like, fuck you fucking bitch.
I would like stay after school and just argue with them. And one time in Spanish class, I forgot to do my homework, so I was doing it first thing, like before class started, and I was like trying to finish, and she's like, okay, everyone pass up your homework, and I'm just still trying to finish it, and she's like, Jimmy, you need to pass in what you have.
Yeah.
And I go, wait, like loud. And my friends like made fun of that.
Well, did your friends think you were a weirdo, or like did you have a bunch of friends? Like, were you?
Yeah, so I didn't have a lot of friends up until about 10th grade when I had like this friend Jeff who kind of took me in to like his friend group.
Yeah,
but that's
how it always worked for me. Is I wasn't necessarily cool with all the popular kids, but I had one popular friend who we were just boys. Yeah. And then that allows you to hang out with everybody.
That's basically what it was. But like I was the weird kid. Like I didn't fit in.
Did this make you a sad boy?
Yeah, it was.
Well, that's like the loneliest time is like the beginning of high school.
Yeah, and especially since like they would hang out with like girls, but I basically was invisible. That sounds so good.
Yeah, they looked right past me
because I was such a spaz.
Yeah,
and I was like,
well, did you blame them or were you like, no, this is my fault?
I knew it was my fault. Yeah.
Well, that's often what happens is you have like these edgy kids that are like, it's me against the world. Yeah. But what you were like, no, I need to figure out being weird first.
Yeah, I need to figure out like what was going on because like I was weird, and so like a lot of times I felt like I was just in that group because I made them laugh. Yeah. So like I don't think that's true now, but a little bit. So like that was all I did. So no one took me seriously. Yeah. Because all I did was
were you the butt of the joke?
I was the butt of the joke, and it was before it felt good. Yeah. So like now I love when people make fun of me. But back then it was like if I was the butt of the joke, it was a nightmare.
Well, I think it's a lot of it is like self sort of like actualization or something. It's like if you're confident enough, you know that if somebody makes fun of you, you're like, I'm cool. You know, it's like I know that this is a bit and we're doing fine. But if you're at the point where you don't even like yourself and somebody says something that you're insecure about, it's like, wait, who am I? Who am I? Am I that guy? Am I this person they're making fun of? It's the fucking worst. Oh my God,
dude. That is the worst when they don't say that it's you, but you know that it's you.
Yeah. Well, it's like, even if it's like a normal ass joke. I remember, honestly, it was like in high school, if somebody asserted that I wasn't funny because I associated myself so strongly with being funny. Yeah. If somebody was like, that joke bombed, or like, oh, you're not funny, I'd carry that home and be like, I'm not funny, I'm a fucking retard. And then, well, when I was weird was like elementary school, and I was like banging my head against the table just like make the class react and like just doing whatever I can to be funny, but it wasn't cool. It was like they're laughing at me. And it's a transition into like making them laugh with you. It's like being funny on purpose rather than
funny
just
on
like
purpose.
Being a weirdo.
Yeah, I had to make that transition. Like in fourth grade, I ate glue. Like I took a bite out of.
Yeah, just like to be like silly and
just because
weird.
I needed attention. Yeah, and people laughed at me. Yeah, they weren't like, "Oh, nice, dude." That was solid bit.
I mean, I think there's an easily like with a lot of probably comedians we know, you can look at things we did as kids and be like, clearly there's a connection between me wanting attention in this moment when I was a child and me needing attention now as an adult.
Yeah, it really is the same thing. It's I always had the compulsion to, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
When no one is. Like,
yeah. And we wanting to be in
pathetic.
the spotlight. And I don't understand people like, I hate being the center of attention. I'm like, it's kind of all I want all the time. It's just for people to see me and to understand, you know, for me to control what they think of me.
Yes, because I hate being misunderstood.
Yeah.
Like, before I was like medicated, I would explain to strangers, like if I felt like they were judging me, I would like start conversations and being like, no, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Or like, I hate the feeling of someone thinking something about me that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Or
or having a misinterpretation.
Or if they think I'm an asshole when I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I can't just let anything be. I just can't be like.
I think maybe some normal people will be like, if somebody thinks I'm an asshole, it's like, let him think that.
Yeah.
But for me, it is like, even if I'm not actively like saying to like apologizing, or if I'm not like trying to make it work or whatever, I'm thinking about it all fucking day. If I say the wrong thing to somebody and they misjudge me, I'm replaying that moment in my head all the time. So it's like, you know, but it's also got me, you know, it's made me want to be a stand-up and do, and you know, it's the balance of like how much is seeking attention good for me and how much of it is destructive.
Yeah, that's the problem with me too. It's because it's like I know that it's ego-driven. Like I can try to like tell myself that it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I like attention.
Yeah.
And also the control thing. So like you put together a set, you get to, for like however long you're on stage, you're taking care of the narrative of how
guiding
people see you.
Exactly when they laugh, exactly what they're, you know, when they think you're funny.
Yeah, or who you are. You get to craft what you're saying so they see you in a way that's very pleasant.
Yeah, and that's why bombing is so hard, is because you're not in control of what's going on.
Yeah, no control. And also you're being vulnerable for the reason of being funny, and now they're not laughing, so now you're just being vulnerable and people are looking at you.
Yes. No, it's the worst. I mean, do you have that in relationships, that same compulsion to be understood? Or do you find yourself crafting narratives and like being attention seeking?
Oh yeah, that's all I do. Is I don't, especially in relationships, I don't want to be misunderstood at all. Like if they make like this, and then that's when it goes downhill, because like if they make a slight assumption of something, my intention that is not accurate, I'll like explain to them ad nauseum like where I'm coming from. And it's always like when we're not together usually.
Yeah.
Because my imagination.
You go through so many scenarios.
So I'm a psychopath that sends like super long text. Well,
you've got that joke. Is that is that based on some text?
That's based on hundreds of texts I've sent to women where I'm like in my own head and I'm feeling something and I just have to explain.
Yeah.
And a lot of like ending of relationships. It's just that joke's like an accumulation of like basically every text I've ever sent someone.
I've done that same shit. I mean, I think in the same way that bombing feels so bad because it's a loss of control.
Yeah.
Breakups are so tough because it's complete. You no longer have any control of what this person thinks about you. And I try to guide it. I've written some fucking corny letters, dude. Just embarrassing. Left it in her mailbox. And like, and not even like mean ones, but like, hey, you know, I hope our lives, blah, blah, blah. Like whatever you end up doing, I'm happy for it. And it long shit. And I'm like, the sentiment, I guess, was there, but it was just me desperately holding on to wanting the last interpretation of me to be a good one. And then it didn't work. You know, it's like writing. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, did you get a letter back?
No. Well, I got a couple days passed. And then on like Christmas, I was like, hey, did you get it? And then she was like, yeah, I got what you were trying to say. And I'm like, are we good? And she's like, yeah. And that was it for like 2 years.
Oh yeah.
And then I finally got sort of the closure I wanted. And that I think is the best, is when you can have that closed book thing of like it no longer.
Yeah.
You no longer can, there's no assumptions going on. You just cool with somebody. That's just the best.
Cool. It's over.
Yeah.
Move on. That's like what I want now if I ever get into a relationship.
If I ever
I don't see myself getting it. I don't know.
I mean, was there a difference between when you're in relationships when you're drinking and shit after, or was it similar patterns?
It was so I've only been in like one relationship and it was a nightmare since I've gotten sober.
Yeah.
It was short. It's like it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
It was with someone that was in recovery.
Is that a no-no?
No, it's not a no-no if they have like time.
Yeah.
Like ethical wise, but it's a no-no if they're all fucked up because a lot of
and then you can just relapse together.
Exactly. And then like that's a dangerous thing. And she relapsed about 2.5 weeks after we broke up, and she had more time than I did.
So did that make you afraid of like getting back into it?
Well, it made me feel bad because the timing was
you could put the dots
suspicious.
Together. Yeah.
Like she dated me and then it was like I need to start drinking again.
Well, I mean, I don't think it was like it just makes sense on paper, the idea of you go through something very hard like a breakup or something, whatever happened, and then you end up just wanting to go back to what makes you feel better. So it's not necessarily you specifically, it's just like going through something hard like that, which I guess was, cause and effect, but it's not necessarily like out of the realm of logic or whatever.
No, it does make sense. And then like that's when I would go super hard after a breakup because I didn't want to feel feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I'm going through a breakup, I'm going to fucking drink harder than I ever had before.
Have you relapsed?
No, not since I got sober.
How long ago was that?
March 30th, 2021.
Oh, that's pretty
so
good.
It'll be 2 years next month.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. We'll throw a celebration. We got fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's the closest you've come to like I need this to fight my feelings?
Closest I come to like relapsing?
Yeah.
So, and this isn't anyone's fault, but early on, well, maybe like 7 months in, I was remember Leslie's like meat open mic? The meat place?
Meat factory or whatever.
Yeah. So afterwards, I was hanging out after, and it was like me, Dave Jolly, Leslie.
Yeah. David Jolly's who you want to be around.
Yeah. Oh, he's supportive, but he didn't know I wasn't smoking.
Yeah.
And then Leslie's boyfriend, Steve Etchy.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Etchy. Sounds Italian. Steve Etchy.
Yeah.
And they're passing the joint around.
Mm-hmm.
But, or blunt. And Jolly Jolly was passing it to me because I was next to him. But, like, I held it. And I was like, oh, fuck. And, like, within, like, 15 seconds, I was like, I could smoke just when I'm in Orlando. Or I'm like, this is stupid. Like, I'm a comic. I should be smoking. Everyone else is smoking. Like,
yeah, and I think I've heard, like, is weed kind of included in recovery?
Well, some people, it's like depends on, like, there's people in recovery that don't drink, but they smoke.
Yeah.
And some people consider that sober. Other people, what they consider sober is like
cutting off
everything. For me, that's what I consider sober. Like if I smoke weed, I don't consider myself sober.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I just don't like weed, but
yeah.
So you were just drinking and using shit from that time from high school up until 2021?
On and off, yeah. But I never went only off when I had to because I was on like probation or in a halfway house.
Wild, dude. Oh yeah, okay. What was the first real trouble you got in?
Just with the law?
With the law, or I mean, I guess if your parents are like, if that was the big deal at first, or like, what was the first time there was ever like the biggest sense of this is harmful for me, and I like leading up to shit like probation and all that.
Okay, so the biggest, now this is like dark, but this will be in black and white.
Yeah.
Okay, so
this will be in your autobiography right later when you're famous.
So this is dark, but so my last semester of college, I was like just smoking a bunch of weed, and I also had these like pills. I forgot what it was, but I remember the doctor saying that like you have to keep it under this milligram because if you take more, you like
heart problems and
dangerous.
whatever.
You
Yeah.
can die. Like it will. So, I was like depressed, and I was super drunk, and I couldn't sleep. So I took like twice as much than I should have.
Yeah.
And then I still couldn't sleep, so I took more. And then I was fucked up, and I'm like, I'm gonna just take them all. And
Wild.
yeah. So I never like I don't remember saying I'm gonna kill myself, but I remember being like, I'm gonna take all of these and see what happens.
It was like a sense of who cares.
Yeah. And then so I was like, I just remember like stumbling around my dorm room halls, just literally just crawling.
Yeah.
And someone called 911, and they just gave me activated charcoal.
Did people think of it as like suicide attempts?
Yeah.
Like, were they like somebody trying to kill themselves, like help them out?
That's what they thought. But
Mhm.
I said it was an accidental overdose.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what I dropped out of college and then went into a rehab from there. So that was my first like rehab.
Oh. So that was a serious moment of you being like, I gotta stop.
Yeah, that was a serious moment, and that was what I did. That like I dropped out of college, and I said I went to like this 30-day rehab that's for dual diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for people that
Like have bipolar.
yeah,
And shit.
mentally ill and addiction issues, and so I spent 30 days there, and I got nothing other than somebody stole my iPod Touch.
Yeah. That was
And
your takeaway.
I fucking lost it.
Yeah. Because the
And-
bipolar shit, you were like, fuck
Well,
this.
no, it's just all I had
Yeah.
was like I had music in it, and I would listen to it
Mm-hmm.
like at night, and I would play games, and so it just disappeared.
And then you went into shock, or like you were like,
It was awful.
I mean, that's yeah, it's like an experience of loss. You're like the
Yeah.
one thing you're holding on to.
So then I got out, and then I just kept going. The biggest trouble I got was I was dating this girl at the time
Mm-hmm.
in upstate New York,
Yeah.
and I was just smoking, but
Mhm.
like I started taking these. It was like synthetic, like heroin kind of stuff.
Yeah, they gave me that in
Yeah.
the hospital,
Yeah,
like Dilaudid and whatever.
I forgot what it's called. It was like Opana,
Yeah.
which is what they give like people that are dying.
Yeah.
And so I was like taking these, and they're $20 each.
And this was a point where you were not seeing this as like necessarily or was it more? It was across the board. Was his attitude just like, who cares what I'm doing? It's like, it just feels good, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, it was like I
You didn't think of pills
miserable.
as like scary.
No, I knew it was serious. I knew it was bad, but I didn't care, and I was in like a really bad relationship.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm spending all the money, and I'm not working, and like I'm basically living off my girlfriend because I keep getting fired. Like
Yeah.
I had this job at the school.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in the cafeteria. I had to serve food to.
I always wondered how
college
people end up
kids.
with those jobs.
You drop out of college,
Yeah.
and then you serve the students that you used to go to school with.
And then they recognize you, and
Yeah.
oh god.
And so like, okay, so now I'm addicted to opiates, and I don't have any money, and I know my grandma's ATM number, like
Yeah.
her ATM thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just took out
That's crazy, dude.
I took out $500 from her checking, $500 from her savings, and $500 like credit.
Thinking she wouldn't notice, or being like, whatever.
Like not thinking at all.
Yeah.
So $1,500, and then I spent it within like 3 or 4 days. But then so I was at my grandma was in a nursing home.
Yeah.
I went into a nursing home and took her card and there was an ATM in the nursing home,
That is
and I
crazy.
used that ATM
Wow.
and then put it back. And
Yeah.
so So I'm at the nursing home, and my grandma gets a call from her financial person and saying, "Hey, we're checking out because you had $1,500 taken out like a couple days ago, and we just like want to make sure that you did that was you."
Yeah.
And then I took the phone. I'm like, "Yeah, we needed."
That's crazy. How old were you?
Yeah, we needed to get a new couch or something. I was 24.
Wild, dude.
And so then I was like, okay, good. But then somehow my parents found out, or my grandma told my parents, and then my parents looked into it, and then they called the dude that was a financial advisor, and then he called the police.
Wow.
And so they came to the nursing home, and I like knew I was fucked.
Yeah.
So,
stomach drop of like,
oh my God. I remember, and then like my parents knew it was me, but I was still trying to pretend it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, but I knew I was fucked. Like I went outside. I remember smoking a cigarette on the patio of the nursing home and just thinking like that, I'm fucked.
This is it.
Yeah. So they come, and then they're talking to me, and they're like, "Hey, you can admit it, or we can check the cameras. We know where you took the money out, so there's cameras in front of the ATM, so you can either let me know, or you know,
yeah.
can,
how are we gonna catch it?
It's up to you."
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I took it, and so they arrested me. Oh my God.
In handcuffs?
In the nursing home, in front of my grandma, in front of my parents, and like, you know, like I knew all these people in the nursing home, and they all loved me.
They thought you were a sweetheart visiting your grandma.
I know they see me being let out in a nursing home, out of the nursing home in handcuffs. So I'm in the back of the cop car.
Yeah.
And I can see like the front of the nursing home is all windows, so I can see the police talking to my mom and dad, and my grandma, and it like broke my heart because my grandma was like just.
Didn't even know what was going on.
No, she knew what was going on.
But it was a complete shock.
But she was like in shock.
Yeah.
I betrayed her. But all I'm thinking is like, okay, well, you know, it's a terrible thing I did, but they're going to tell them, you know, hey, it's, you know, we're going to take care of it. And, you know, not going to press charges, obviously. And I just see my grandma, and she shook her head and walked away. And then my parents left, and now it's just the cops, and they're coming out. And I'm like, what did they say?
That's wild.
And he's like, you're going to jail. So my grandma pressed charges against me.
Wow.
And so I went to jail. And then I went after I got out, I went to an addiction crisis center, and then into a halfway house for 6 months.
When you were like 24, 25?
Yeah.
Wow. That is wild.
Yeah.
How long were you in jail?
Only like 10 days.
Okay. And was it is it like when you're going into jail, are you thinking like the rules of jail and like I gotta, you know, is it like anything you think it is?
It was, well, I went in and they're like, they asked, do you have any thoughts of suicide?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I'm like, well, if I say I'm suicidal, they'll take me to a hospital instead of jail. That is not what happens.
Did you tell that to them?
Yeah, I was like, I want to kill myself. And so they take you to medical, just a different section of the jail, which is worse. It was like did you ever play Batman Arkham
Asylum?
Yeah, that's what it was like.
People banging their head against the wall.
That's what it was like.
And you're like, no, actually, I've had a change of heart.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then I went into, the jail was overcrowded, so I went into an isolation cell. I was just by myself for 3 days.
Like, and nothing to do, just in a cell?
Nothing to do.
That's
the
torture.
only time I got out was to take a shower.
One shower in 3 days?
One shower, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And, well, eventually I got 2 magazines slid under my door because someone that I knew was, like, there.
Yeah.
And they were, like, cleaning. And he looked in and he goes, Jimmy fucking Moynihan. I'm like,
that's me.
And then like 2 hours later, and then 2 hours later, I had 3 ESPN the magazine slid under my door.
Did you just immediately where's the
God.
girls?
Yeah. No, I remember I read this thing about Colin Kaepernick about 10,000 times. Like, cause like it's all I had, so I read every article like.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't even expect this kind of shit. Yeah, I mean, did it fuck you up? Was it like traumatizing?
Yeah. And then so like I was withdrawing from Klonopin to like the Klonopin was the worst because I was like 3 milligrams of Klonopin a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like dangerous to just stop it like that. So
yeah, well, some withdrawals can kill you, right? I
Klonopin,
think alcohol is one of them too.
Alcohol, but like Klonopin, you can just have seizures too and just die.
God damn.
But they're not really too worried about. And I'm banging on the door because I'm withdrawing from Klonopin.
Yeah.
And like Opanas.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm banging on the door saying, I need my medication. I need my medication. Literally screaming.
Yeah, I need my
medicine. Then everyone else is like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And I'm like, so there's like other people like in other, oh my God.
I mean, were you hallucinating and shit?
Yeah, everything was moving. And then I had these dreams where I was not in jail. And also my girlfriend had just broken up with me.
Oh my
so now
God.
I'm like heartbroken in jail, and I'm having dreams where I'm with her,
mm-hmm.
and then I wake up, and she's not there, and also I'm in jail.
You're like, wait, no, let me back in.
Yeah. So
that
I'm just thinking about what
heartbreaking.
she's doing, like where is she, and then that she's gonna find out, and like, cause there's a part of me that I'm still gonna get back together with her.
Yeah.
But when she finds out that I went to jail for stealing money from my grandmother,
she's not gonna like it.
That's it. And then I was having dreams that I was smoking cigarettes because also no cigarettes.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare.
I mean, at that point, how much of it was I'm gonna get out and get my life together? How much of it was like, this is just over? Like I fucked up my life.
I thought it was over at the time, and I didn't know why I was being held there.
Mm-hmm.
But I was homeless. So
because you were living like not on paper with your girlfriend? No.
So the breakup with my girlfriend was right before all this.
Yeah, that's what drove you to need the money.
Drove me into like going on a drug binge.
Yeah.
And so I was homeless. I was just living. Like I was just sleeping in my grandma's nursing home.
Yeah. Oh, that's why you're there so much?
Yeah. That's why I had
that is a crazy life, dude.
A piece of shit.
I mean, it's just hard because in my
I used to be a piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, it's like you were 24 there. You know, I'm turning 24 in like 6 months.
Yeah, you're doing a little better than I was.
Well, it's just insane for me to imagine somebody my age even. I don't know. I think it's easy for me to think about these things so abstractly. Even when you're saying it now, it seems like something that happened to somebody else almost, or like
it doesn't.
Or like
seem
this is
like
something that happened forever ago.
Yeah.
But then you mentioned like, oh, Colin Kaepernick. I'm like, wait, I remember when that happened. It's like, oh, this is a real moment in time.
Yeah, it was before the whole kneeling thing. It was just the article was about his like first because he had like a really good first season. So it was just like about him being.
Did you
good.
know you were going to be there for 10 days, or was it just like an indefinite?
I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on.
Wow.
And then there was a conflict of interest, which was my public defender was someone I knew. So that made me have to wait longer.
Oh.
To get out.
Wow.
But eventually they transferred me to just general pop, which I was never so happy.
Yeah, you're like, I finally get to hang out with all these skinheads.
Oh, so nice. But then
work out.
The first day I was there, I was eating lunch, and some dude comes up to this guy and like tells him to give him his tray. Because I found out later that he bet his food tray on a game of spades, and he lost. And the dude was like, "Dude, we said that I won that back or whatever," and he wasn't giving the guy the tray. And so the guy with the tray stood up and said something in his face, and the other guy, like punch him harder than I've ever seen someone punch someone before, and he literally just fell like a domino.
And this is your first day in general population?
Yeah, and I was like right across, and I remember thinking, holy shit, what is going on? I just like thinking, I need to get out of here. This is awful. And it was so like I was such a pussy.
Yeah.
Like I was so scared.
You were not going in there with any intention to be a tough guy or like,
no, not at all.
Yeah.
There was like this old guy that smelled like garbage.
Mm-hmm.
But he was really nice.
Yeah, so you
so
chill with
I
him.
hung out with him a lot. He wore diapers.
Was he like? Did he tell you like
the
do
jail?
Do you remember him as like a figure in your life that?
Yeah,
like,
that was comforting.
Yeah.
But the jail gave him diapers
Because you just shit
he was
himself.
incontinent.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
But he was a good guy.
Yeah.
I still talk to him every day.
Yeah, I do wonder if he's dead or something.
Probably.
Yeah.
He was on his and it sucks having to like be in jail when you're old.
Yeah. I mean, before we leave jail, is there any like other wild fights or like feelings from that time?
There's one thing that happened in jail because I'm part Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all sitting around the TV, and we were just I don't know what we were saying, but I mentioned that I was part Jewish to this guy, this like white guy that was with a shaved head.
Which you had to have known. That was a bad idea.
I wasn't thinking. It just like came out.
Yeah, yeah.
And he goes, "You're a Jew?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, I mean, small percent." And I remember just him asking question after question after question.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I'm gonna die." And then I just went back into my cell
and
just like waited there. But it was terrifying.
Yeah, that's the scariest shit in the world. I could never imagine.
I remember getting out. Oh my God. When I got out, first of all, my parents picked me up and I went crazy. I was like crazy and I tried jumping out of my dad's car because he was screaming at me.
Yeah, I mean, all right, so the feelings of you and your parents, were they like very upset or understanding? And also, were you apologetic or were you angry at them?
I somehow blame them.
Yeah, like, why would you put me in there?
Yeah, yep. Oh yeah, that was it. I was like, why would you do that? Why would you press charges against, like, not taking any accountability for what I did?
Yeah. Just
mad that they didn't. Why wouldn't you tell my grandma to, not press charges?
Yeah.
I'm family. What the fuck? Then I was homeless, but I remember that first cigarette. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I think I inhaled the whole cigarette with like 2 drags.
Yeah, like a cartoon.
Yeah. But it's so funny because I'm such a pussy that I was treating like my like 8 to 10 days in jail like I got out of prison after 45 years.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it was terrifying. I mean, but looking back now, I'm sure, do you think like that was, I guess it took a while after that, but was that like an important step in getting better, or like was that like a kind of worth it or not at all?
Well, I mean, I went to a halfway house for 6 months after that.
Yeah.
And a week after I got out of the halfway house, someone injected heroin into my arm.
Unconsensually?
No, I asked them to. I didn't really get high, and I shot up heroin then, but for some reason, I think he gave me a very small amount.
Yeah.
Because he was like, but then I was sniffing heroin shortly after that. So I didn't learn anything.
Okay.
I didn't get better. And the day I got out of the halfway house, I smoked weed. Like, got really high.
I guess if you
drank.
just are going through these crazy withdrawals, you're just like, dude, finally.
Oh, yeah, no. And I was smoking this stuff called K2.
I've heard of that.
Oh, my God. It's a nightmare.
Isn't that like some kind of tranquilizer or something? Or?
It's just like it's like synthetic, it's like fake weed. So it's just incense.
Yeah,
and they spray these chemicals that make you hallucinate.
Okay.
It's super unhealthy.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most unhealthy things you could smoke.
Mm-hmm.
You're just, but I did that. And then I took kratom a lot too.
Okay. I thought kratom was a new thing. I did kratom for the first time recently.
So kratom was like really new when I was in the halfway house, to a point where the drug counselors didn't know what it was.
Yeah. Well, it's still legal.
It's still legal, but you know, it's...
And you could get a dependency on it. I didn't like it. It made me throw up.
I threw up the first time I took it.
Yeah. Well, I also drank like 2 beers and smoked a bunch of cigarettes after, and then I felt really sick, and I'm like, But no, I mean, so heroin, were you total crackhead? I mean, what is the lifestyle of someone who does heroin? Did you kind of seem like a normal guy on the outside, or was it like homeless people around?
At first it was like I was working at a restaurant.
Oh, so you're like, that's on paper you're doing very well.
Well, I was a host.
I mean, it's better than giving college kids food, I guess.
It was better. Yeah, I remember thinking I'm killing it. I'm a host at Ground Round. And but then I lost that job, and then I was a server at this place called Number 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started like sniffing.
Yeah.
Like regularly.
Yeah.
But no, after a while it was just you're not a regular person. Like you don't have a soul. You're just, all you're thinking about is getting more.
Yeah.
So like it's just one after another, and then like, so then you're in that lifestyle, so getting high is the most amazing thing, because it's just the relief from how awful it is when you're not high.
Yeah.
And then the high isn't exciting anymore. It's just you're dreading not being high.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, was it fantastic in the beginning.
You loved it.
Oh my God, the best. There's nothing to describe how good it felt.
Yeah, well, I've done Dilaudid, which I think is synthetic heroin, but I didn't do it. It was like for pain, you know.
Right.
And I guess it's similar. I mean, like some maybe metaphorical extrapolation of because it was this big surgery, and that to recover from that was I was on a schedule of Dilaudid, and they would inject it in my port, and or no, there was IVs, so yeah, they were doing my arm.
Oh,
and then, but it was like when I didn't have it, it was the worst pain ever. So maybe it's in some way it was like it felt so good. I mean, it was like it started up. It was like just throughout my whole body. And lay down and just all the pain from the cut and like being uncomfortable and it just all went away. And
just
I was
like
just
a warm
felt
blanket,
great.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it was very warm.
It's just your whole body.
Yeah,
and it's like cozy.
And when I didn't have it, it sucked, but it wasn't from withdrawals. It was from pain. You know,
just
it was
pain,
like.
Yeah.
But there were times where, because I was on a schedule, but doctors, it's like sometimes it'll fuck up where it's like, oh, we don't have it for another like couple hours, and I would just sit there, and just being like, I need it so bad. Like I need for this pain to go away, or you know, it's weird just waiting for it.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's the worst because you're just obsessing about it.
Yeah, and it's like all I'm thinking about, and time stops being like real, or you know, you're just like when you have to wait for something like that, it's like watching a clock tick.
Oh my God.
Like, there's no way to abstract this or like do anything else that would
distract
make time go
yourself.
faster.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
When you're in pain, it's like fuck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, was withdrawal similar to just being in such pain that the only way to relieve it was doing more drugs?
Yeah. It's the only relief that you're gonna get unless you actually go through withdrawing and then getting better. It's like one or the other. But
and do your parents cut you off completely?
Yeah, so this was after I got out of jail, and I was working, so I was kind of providing for myself.
Yeah.
And
being at work, did that even feel real? Like in real life, you were like fucking just being a normal person, interacting with people, and
I thought I was
taking orders.
I thought I was, but I got fired from being a server because I sucked, and then they put me at host. But I thought I was normal, but I probably wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably like in really bad shape.
Yeah.
I knew I was in bad shape like before I quit, and then I quit, and then just started taking a lot of benzos.
You quit heroin and switched to benzos?
Yeah, so that was the way I quit.
And was that better for your life? Yeah.
But the withdrawals from that is literally a nightmare where you're like shaking, like literally no relief.
Yeah.
Like it's a nightmare. It's just, you feel like you're gonna jump out of your skin. Like it's insane.
And so were you doing that until recovery?
Yeah, I was doing that.
And drinking?
Drinking, yeah.
Yeah.
That was my favorite thing because like taking benzos. Oh, then I went through an Adderall phase. And then I was on probation, and then that's when I started getting into Adderall.
Yeah.
And that's when I started doing coke. I was doing like drugs that would get out of your system quicker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just funny to think of those drugs. They seem like so much less crazy than what you were doing before.
Yeah, I could like consider myself sober when I was on Adderall.
Well, because Adderall, it is like you can be so normal. At least the way I've taken it.
Yeah, I wasn't normal.
Yeah. Well, because who I think of you as now compared to what you were like back then, I mean, is it just a completely different person?
You wouldn't want to hang out with me at all.
Yeah?
You would not.
You're a dick or what?
I was a dick. I was a spaz. I got angry.
Mm-hmm.
I was just unbearable to be around. I just wasn't
Did you get
pleasant.
in, like, fights and shit?
I would get into arguments. I didn't get in fights. I would get punched. I would get hit. I wouldn't fight back because I'm a pussy.
Yeah.
Like I would just crawl into a ball.
That's so. I mean, yeah, you are presenting the image of yourself as just this like
coward.
Fucking, like what's his the guy from Lord of the Rings, the Golem or whatever. He's like, my precious.
Yeah.
That's wild, dude.
No, I was just you wouldn't like me. I was just obnoxious and selfish, and I was mean.
Mm-hmm.
I was really mean to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, how do you even transition? Because that was most of your life, I'm assuming, is just being this type of person. And I'm assuming it got worse once the crazy shit started happening.
It got worse.
And then how do you even go from that to being a fucking normal ass dude that cares about other people and doesn't get angry?
I guess sober and went to a 12-step program.
Because that's where I was leading, I guess, because I did look up, I don't remember them, but what the 12 steps are.
Yeah.
And it seems like a religious kind of program.
It is. It's like they don't like to say it's religious, but it's like
dogma to live by.
It's a dogma to live by, and they're saying because they don't bring in religion, they bring in spirituality.
Yeah.
But really, the 12-step program itself is like a religion.
Yeah.
Because if you compare it to a church, it's...
I mean, yeah, I can see that
100%. So you have to find a higher power in...
Well, so did you put yourself in it?
Yeah, I just went.
Yeah.
By myself.
And did you think it was corny and gay or whatever?
Well, I've been in and out of AA, so like I knew what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was corny, but I never worked the program at all until this time around. But I had to like get a sponsor, and I had to. I was like all in, but like it was like a nightmare the first 2 months.
Yeah. Well,
like,
what led you? Was there an event or something that led you to that?
I was living by myself. My parents were in New York, and I was just smoking a fuck ton of weed.
Yeah.
And then like doing coke when it was around, and I was in this terrible relationship with this fucking psychopath.
Yeah, but you were kind of on your way. Like you weren't doing benzos anymore, and
no, just like weed and then drinking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And
so that's like a smooth transition, I suppose, into being like like just smoking a lot of weed and drinking, and you can be like, all right, I can stop these. Like I can.
Yeah, it wasn't like that bad physically, but mentally it was rough. But then
But I'm just presenting as like there's no. I'm sure the person that like your need for weed and alcohol was probably so much different than your lifestyle when you were doing all these crazy shit.
Yeah, because at least I was like functioning, and like alcohol's like a social like thing, so like I was being around, but it wasn't good. The relationships I was in with people and women were bad.
Yeah. And so you get in there and it sucked.
I get in there, I'm shaking, I'm crying every meeting.
Yeah.
Just I start sobbing every meeting.
Yeah.
And then when I'm not crying, I'm angry, and I'd have these outbursts during meetings where I would scream at people in the meetings.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were against me or.
Well, did you feel that same sense of like wanting to be heard? Did you finally feel like you had an outlet to be heard and like control what people think about you or something?
Yeah, and I still wanted to control what people thought, and I didn't want people to judge me.
Yeah.
So that's when I would get angry.
Which is, I'm assuming, the whole point is not to be judged, but to admit and like.
Yeah, admit what you did wrong, and also be okay with like being vulnerable and like, because basically you have to like be really really honest for it to work, and so like that was hard for me.
Yeah.
But then it just got easier. Everyone that knew me when I first came in, they always tell me like, we did not think you were gonna make it
Really?
at all. Like we 100% thought that you would be there for like a couple weeks.
Yeah, and then just go back to being a shithead.
But I just hung around. I went to like 3 meetings.
Well, I know people from AA still go to shows, right? Or like they'll support the comedy.
Oh yeah, they come out and they come to beach. They used to come to Beachside a lot.
Yeah. No, I remember there being at least one show where it was like, oh, I didn't even know there was mostly AA people in here.
Yeah, in the beginning it was like all AA. Like the whole show was just like.
Were you doing stand up before AA?
I was, but it was not good.
Yeah.
It was rough.
Yeah, I mean, so in the program, were you receptive to any of the spiritual stuff or the stuff you were learning, or like, what did you make of like your relationship with whatever higher power that they wanted you to have?
Yeah, so that was tough at first, and like, so like, there's no God. God doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's no like God. So I can't. Like, I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to keep myself sober, so I knew I needed some kind of higher power. I needed to admit I was powerless over drugs and alcohol. That's a big
like
thing.
Step one or whatever.
And I have to know that, I also had to, and I figured out that I wasn't going to be able to keep myself sober. So I knew I had to just like admit that I was powerless and give it to some kind of higher power, because that's what everyone was telling me.
Yeah.
But I didn't believe in God, and I didn't believe in any kind of deity, all-knowing God or anything like that. And I still don't.
Yeah.
And you really don't have to. I mean, people are like, as you go, you'll develop a better relationship with God. And even more so in Florida than in New York, people in AA are like super into God. Yeah. Like God up above the man.
Which, if you can believe in that stuff, that probably would make sense.
It would be great.
Give it up to a guy as opposed to like an abstract idea of something bigger.
Yeah. In terms of recovery, it's great to have a man. You give your problems to
the creator
God.
of the universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you give it to him, and then that helps with acceptance. So like basically like I want to stay sober. So like I don't give a shit what my higher power is. I just need it to be a stable thing, and I think of it as above me.
Yeah.
And I'll say God, or I'll just say higher power without any thought. And I really don't need to put any thought into what my higher power is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of the same, if somebody asked me.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I don't think it's God is real, but something.
Something. I just have, something greater than myself. And then they said, like, even if you don't believe it, do you believe that other people believe it? And that's enough. Yeah. That's what they say a lot. So I believed that other people believed that there was a higher power or there was a God, and that was enough.
Yeah.
And then things just started getting better. And it was like wild because when I stopped drinking, I thought life was going to suck. Like I'm losing something.
Yeah. But losing all the activities associated with it and the friends or whatever.
Exactly the opposite now. Like I've never been happier, and I'm not like tied down to like having to drink or smoke weed, because like before it's like I remember like if I was like down to a little bit of weed, I would like it'd be this panic. I would
you're scraping the bowl for the resin and shit.
Yep, scraping and then just smoking nothing. Taking a clothespin and taking out the gunk from the thing.
Yeah, the
putting
keef.
that on
you're
top.
Like, is there any keef in here?
Nightmare. But I'm happy, and I can accept things better now. I can handle
did you transition?
Stuff.
You left the program and then just 180 as a human.
Like left.
Like as in like you finished or not? I guess you started. I don't know. I guess it's never over or whatever. But as far as like when you started, I guess like from the time you started AA to now, is it just like Jimmy's just a different person?
I think so. I think I'm just a better version of myself. I'm not as egotistical. I'm not as angry. I'm not as I was so self-obsessed.
Yeah.
And I'm not as spastic.
And you have comedy.
Yeah, and I have comedy. And it's like I'm doing the type of comedy that I dreamed about being able to do when I was drinking and smoking.
Yeah.
Which I knew I couldn't do because it was just half-baked garbage shit. Couldn't write.
That's your higher power. I don't know, yeah.
Kinda.
I mean, it is like that probably helps a lot, is to be getting better at something and to be running a bunch of rooms and have sort of a goal, you know?
Yeah, and it's my new addiction. It's like I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
That's all I think about, really.
There's way worse things to be. It is funny how wrapped up it gets, where it's like, now it's you've transitioned the compulsion into something positive.
Something positive, but it's still, I mean, it's exactly like a drug because I think about it all day and then I go and do it and then I'm on stage and I get high from being on stage.
Oh, yeah. A good new joke's doing well.
Oh, my God.
Feels amazing. I think about it in the car on the way home. And
you just have a smile on your face. You get off stage when you do good with a new thing or just good in general. You get off stage and you like kill for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're just fucking lit up.
It feels amazing.
And then it's just like a drug too. You don't tell other people that you're high if you smoke weed or whatever. And same thing with like comedy. If you feel high from, be like, oh man, I feel so good.
Yeah.
But you feel good.
Well, it's weird that what we use instead of drugs, like things that are obviously operate on the same mechanisms as substances, like that aren't substances. You know, like for me, like you break up shit of like being obsessed with a girl and like one in the same way of like when, let's say, in the same way that you think about drugs all the time or the same way that you think about comedy all the time, where now all of a sudden all you're thinking about is what you're doing right now, or like checking social media or that shit, even like caffeine or fucking anything. It's hard.
Anything.
I guess humans just go through shit just with this need to do to activate your chemicals or whatever, like
it's anything that's addicting that you don't put any effort into curbing or controlling is gonna go crazy, especially anyone with like any kind of addictive personality, especially or just anyone. Things that feel good, you're gonna have a compulsion to chase it, and some of it's healthy and some of it's not. But like that's a good point. Like there's nothing better than like a new fling with a girl where you're like obsessed about it.
Same way you get high on stage, you're getting high in love.
Just high in love, and like music is better, and you're like listening to music and just
sex. That's like sex addict. I mean, I totally, that is another substance, is like the pleasure of coming in another person.
Yeah,
it's like
and even the sex without the coming. I mean, coming, but like the whole thing,
just being there. Well, it's like the pleasure aspect. It's like that's why it's like hookups or whatever. But then it's like the feeling of just like being with someone you love and just cuddling. I'm like, when that goes away, you're like, give it back. How do I get that again?
I know it sucks because there's nothing better than that. And you're like, even when you're not doing anything, you're doing nothing with someone else.
Yeah,
it's okay.
But then it's I guess to wrap it up, it's like it's always when you're become obsessed or you're like using something that is better for you. Some people get obsessed with the gym and that's cool. Some people get obsessed with fucking creative things or whatever. It's like if it's as long as you're honing, your drive to feel shit into something good, then I guess that's like all you can do. And then obviously it's like when you become obsessed in an unhealthy way with the person, that's not chill. But if you're building something together and you're like, it's like a healthy, cool thing and you can develop an understanding about the world and all that, that's chill.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. I guess that's about it, right? That's
fuck yeah.
Any other, do you have any advice for anybody who's struggling with addiction?
Just seek help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And, the more secrets you have, the sicker you stay. So, allow other people to help you.
Yeah. And don't have sex with men.
Yeah, don't have sex with men unless you have to.
Yeah.